Hey everybody, welcome back to another Dice Tower review. My name is Z Garcia.
I'm Mike DeLisio.
I'm Miller Cleghorn.
Today we're going to be taking a look at Lands of Galzyr here from Snowdale Design. This is a story-driven, campaign-esque, not legacy, but kind of changes throughout from one game to a weird game.
Kind of choose your own adventure.
Kind of.
Yeah.
So, and it's set in this world in which this designer's and publisher's other games are set in. So the Dale of Merchants and all those games have the same world. And then that Dawn of Peacemakers, right?
Indeed,
that I know
yeah.
you like very much. It's also set in the same world. So this dives into that world with so much story that it really brings all of the little inner workings of the lives of these anthropomorphic characters to life. So before we dig into our final thoughts or what we think of the game itself, let me show you how it works. Kind of. It's going to be a little bit tricky because, again, I can't really show you a lot of things.
Right.
But I'll show you a little bit of it. We'll come on back, tell you what we think. So here I'm going to be showing you the board, some of the components that come in the game, the characters over here, and then I'll show you how a dice check works and some of the app information over here, okay? So, again, like I said, you're going to get a stack of cards right here, numbered and organized in there, another one of these, and a third one that goes in the box that holds your characters and dice and so on. I'm going to go ahead and put these over here off to the side. The board is going to be double-sided based on what in-game month it is. It'll tell you what side to set this up on. So you've got this board here, a place to track your prestige and paths to walk around, and a place to track the time. And then if you flip this over, then it's a winter side, okay? With the board covered in snow. Same thing, just, again, a very snowy place. Now you'll have locations out here where cards will go. So we're going to focus up here on the number one in this Yezdan part. Okay, so up there, these cards are going to be laid out at the beginning of the game. So I'm going to go ahead and put one there for now so I can explain to you some of the things that are going to be taking place. So number one would go on the snowy side right here. And you can see it continues the artwork. It just makes this card replaceable from session to session. If something changes, maybe you'll take this card away and they'll tell you to find a different card in here and put it in its place. So that's the idea. Let's take a look at some characters while they're out here. So here's one of them. There are 4 included, okay? These 4, I'll show you. Oh, come here, buddy. There we go. So these 4, here you can track their gold. They are going to have some innate abilities. And then over here in this area is what's used for the dice checks in the game that you'll be doing very frequently, okay? So the idea being, if you're asked to do a test, it's going to be in one of these 6 abilities, like survival, like, how sneaky they are, how knowledgeable they are. They all have names, but that's the idea. You're going to do that test with these dice. So no matter what the test is, you always get these 5 black ones. But if you have anything that's going to help you above and beyond, because these are just one of each of the 6 faces, then you can replace one of the black ones with a specific colored die, okay? So for instance, let's say I'm doing a test, and it is in this little eyeball here, which is like a perception type thing. So I have one of those tags, this little plastic piece there, that are also replaceable, by the way, with these other plastic pieces from session to session. Sometimes you'll be allowed to change them. So I'm going to replace one of these dice with this one. But also, you can replace any neighboring places. So next to that is this light blue one, so I can also put one of those in there. And you should, because obviously it's better. The idea being, like I said, the black ones have one of each. The specific ones have a double and then 2 doubles, boom, boom, and singles of the 2 neighbors. So, for example, on the eyeball one there, you have 2 doubles of those and then 2 of the communication and 2 of the thievery ones, which are right there. So it'll help the neighbors as well. So I'll be rolling this if I was doing this test. And I would see how many of those little eyeballs I got. In this case, none, which could happen. but sometimes you'll have re-rolls, sometimes you'll have tags that will help you modify that. So there's certainly luck there, as you can see, but you can oftentimes mess with that a little bit. So there you go. That's how the characters work out. You also have spots down here for 3 cards, 3 items you can carry in your backpack. And when you play one of these, you're meant to continue playing the same one through your adventures. The gold, you spin down on that wheel or spin up so that you can keep track of it. So let's go ahead and take a look here at the app, okay? So this is a website. You just go to the website. You've set that up, and so let's say as you move around, you will have encounters with various places. So let's say for the sake of this that we have over here, we're going to go to, which one do we want to go to? Let's do number 2, the gardens. So we'll go to the gardens. You can either type that in right here, or you can just find it and press it, and they'll give you an entry. Then sometimes they'll give you some choices, okay? If we do 6, which is a slightly better one, this is the inn. You go to an inn in one of these other places. Then they give you a breakdown of what's going on, and then you can help clean the bathrooms, you can spend some of your money to stay at the inn, or you can help, okay? Based on what you do, you will, if it's one of these, you'll do a dice check and then reveal the outcomes. You click how many successes you had, and then that'll give you some more reading. And that's it. You follow this until it says that you're done, and then it's the next player's turn. I'm not going to show you any more of that because I don't want to spoil any of it, okay, at all. So that's going to do it. But yeah, hopefully that gives you an idea of what's going on. Again, everything you're seeing here, and many of the things change from game to game and carry over from session to session. That's obviously a little hard to show you when I don't want to spoil anything, but just keep that in mind. Let's go ahead and go back up top. All right, there we go. So that is Lands of Galzyr. This is one that I was very captivated by when it first was announced. I think it was on GameFound, I want to say.
I believe so.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, that sounds
Yeah.
It was weird. It was interesting. It seemed like a Sleeping Gods-esque kind of game. You know, big overreaching story, but one that seemed to be lighthearted, sort of cartoony, and the animals are cute and all that jazz, but also easy to pick up and put down and then come back to and continue that story. That's one of those things I'm always looking for in this kind of game. Is there an actual save system that saves and works and doesn't make me feel like I'm doing more work to put the game away than I did to like just play it.
Right.
You know?
taking out some of that overhead. Right?
Yeah, it's so much to deal with. There's a few games that I've done it in the past I haven't been super happy with. Sleeping Gods is okay in. Seventh Continent is a mess. I hated in that one.
Do not like this. You're talking about the save system specifically.
Right, not the
save
game.
system
Right.
Yeah.
specifically. So because I'm figuring we're just going to jump in that. I think this game gets that right. Finally.
This game does it the best I've ever seen for this type of game, and the difference between this and the next best is not even close.
Right.
Yeah.
There's 2 reasons why, I think. One is that the game sessions, if you just play one game session, it's short.
It is.
It
It's like 45 minutes.
Very,
It's
very quick.
digestible.
And so it's especially important that they get that aspect right. Because if you're having to spend 10, 15 minutes to set it up and tear it down on both ends for a 45-minute game session, it would be terrible. The best I've seen it done. I appreciate that, and I agree that it's the best implementation of a save system I've seen.
Yeah. So it does that very well. It's a story that continues. You will keep some quests that you started on in one session. When you begin again, you'll have some of those things again. And then the seasons change and the months change. So next time you set it up, it's now March. Then it's April, next time you play, and so on. That's a really cool idea. Again, it makes the world feel alive a little bit.
It does.
It brings it all to fruition very well.
I think it also keeps it from being overwhelming because you talk about how you'll have some of those quests that you're going to see round to round, but you have a limit as well, as opposed to like Sleeping Gods where you might end up with 10. And so it's this choose your own adventure, kind of what path do you want to go, but you kind of at times might feel a little pulled in multiple directions. Here, you're pulled in a couple different directions, but it's in a manageable amount. There's just the 3 quests, at a time that you can have, and you might switch some of those out, things like that. But it kind of keeps it so it's the overhead of the setup and the teardown. But I think also in-game play is much more manageable for that single session, which is going to keep the play time down lower as well. It just feels very manageable, I guess. I'm using the same word over and over here, but it's very approachable, and you don't feel as directionless as in some games.
Yeah, I agree. It's a smaller map, so it's easier to sort of like, I'm going to go do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and mechanically, I think that it bears out with what you're saying in that this is, of any of these types of storytelling type of games, you've already mentioned a couple, Sleeping Gods, Seventh Continent, this is much more simplistic mechanically, and I think that's something that we should mention straight off, towards the front of this review, is that if you're looking for a mechanics-first game, story secondary, this is probably not the game for you.
Right.
This is very much story first, mechanics second. It's basically dice checks and looking for particular tags that you have on cards, right? And we also should mention that the implementation of an app or a website is pretty much essential to the game. It's a free web you can go to, and you can download it onto your machine.
Right.
That I think is implemented very, very well.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. We should definitely talk about the writing and the book, so to speak. Yeah, but I think to your point, mechanically, it's very easy, and and again, I think some people would not like that. I think some people are going to look at it and go, "That's it."
Right.
It's a book. I'm just reading a lot.
Right.
That's true.
It is.
This game, every turn, it's not above and below, where you can go do worker placement and sometimes read a little passage.
Right.
Every turn, you may move, and then you're reading some stuff.
You have to do a quest.
Someone is reading it to you, whatever. But so every time you're doing that, even if you don't, have a quest that you made it to, then it's a random encounter, but you're always reading something.
Yes.
And then checking some dice normally.
Right, absolutely. And to that point, though, I think it doesn't feel, you said, oh, you're just reading a book, but it doesn't feel linear like a book either.
Right.
You still have those interesting decisions in that, okay, do I want to do, A or B or C? And in those, you might have 4 or 5 different checks that you do in which you're also making decisions. So it doesn't feel like this is the story and you're just kind of following along the story. You're not acting out a novel, if that makes sense. You are kind of creating the story, and the game really rewards you with these little micro changes.
Yeah.
Something that happens in yours, you're replacing a card in the event deck. So it's going to, take out this card and replace it with this one, because when it pops back up, it's kind of like the stage 2, or that option is no longer available. The seasons might change, which are going to try to change the story a little bit because it's now cold outside or hot outside, so it's really rewards you with those micro changes over repeated plays, without feeling like you're going chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3 through a novel.
And the reason for that is that what was so interesting is why I was kind of getting a little kick out of you struggling to describe this game at the very beginning, because it's not easy to describe, because it defies a lot of expectations. It is not a linear story.
Right.
Every character has a little bit of a quest kind of thing that they can complete, but that's about it. Like, you can really just go off and you can continue on with that character as long as you want. You may start seeing some things, but I think you'd have to be playing a lot to get to some repeated. Or you can play with a different character. You can trade them in and out. It's not a campaign, really. It's not Legacy, really.
Right.
It's kind of a weird amalgamation, and it really approaches it in such a unique manner that I particularly enjoy, which is, you could just dive in and out of this so easily. You know what I mean? It does not feel like, oh gosh, it's been 2 weeks since I've played it. I have to relearn everything. I have to remember exactly what was going on. No, you had a couple of companions you found. They're going to be there. Oh, that's right. I met this polecat, whatever. You know what I mean? It's very well set up for discrete chunks. You could play 3 or 4 in a row if you want, or you could play 1 every couple of weeks.
Right.
Yeah. Now, as far as the writing goes, we should talk about that. And the quality of the writing, and we should throw the app or the website in there as well. Looking at that first, I think the implementation of the page, the website, is tremendous.
I agree.
I think they knocked it out of the park. Yeah. You type in the 2 or 3 digit code, whatever, bam, your reading comes up. There are underlined words that tie to the animal species in this world. So if they talk about a spotted polecat or something, or the panda, whatever. You touch it, you're like, and they tell you a little bit about that thing.
With a picture and
yeah.
everything,
Sometimes they have a
fact.
picture, sometimes they have a picture, sometimes not, but they always tell you a little bit about it. And then you decide what you want to do. Touch on that, see the options, roll your dice, all of that. Sometimes they pose questions that are like, oh, do you have this tag or do you have this ability? Yes. That's a new ability you wouldn't have seen otherwise.
Right.
It's some interesting stuff, but the implementation of it is excellent.
Yeah, I agree.
And then the writing, I think, is generally pretty good. I don't know how you guys feel about that. I think it's a little verbose sometimes, and there's a couple of small issues I've come across, a couple little mistakes.
Sure.
They're minor, especially considering this is not a game from an English-speaking place first, as far as I know.
It's a Finnish.
I think it's
Okay.
Finnish,
Yeah.
right? So that's very impressive. It's very well done. But yes, there's a couple of little things, and because of the sort of inspiration of this world, which to me feels a little Middle Eastern, there's a lot of names of characters and a lot of names of locations which are not great for pronunciation and hard to stick in the mind for someone, well, from the U.S., I guess.
Sure.
Right. Yeah. That's what I was going to say. Is I think that the website itself was very, very well done. I do agree that it can be a little bit verbose, but again, you know you're getting into a story game here, so you know that going into it. And even being verbose, we're still talking about a 45-minute session for an
Sure,
entire
right.
fulfilling game session. But the one point I did want to bring up is, is it Galzyr or Galzyr? You know what I mean? Kind of thing. And I feel like I have that throughout, and it's like, wait, what was that character? I don't remember. Oh yeah, the polecat. Again, English is the only language I speak, and so other people might not have that problem. I don't really know if it's Middle Eastern, so is it just a language or is it made up words? I truly don't know.
I mean, they're all made up words, I'm assuming.
Well, I
it just sounds kind of from the part of the world.
And I didn't get that vibe. I just got it. Just sounded like another fantasy kind of creation, So, and that was a little annoying. But again, maybe that's just on me and my limited, knowledge of other pronunciations and stuff. I didn't come across any typos or anything like that. I don't think any. There was one specifically that I didn't know if something was a tag or not, but a benefit of having it web-based is they've already done an update, and so I had the information downloaded because I didn't have internet at one point when I was playing, so I just downloaded it all.
Right.
So I just had to take it off my reading list and refresh the page, and then it was, it would have fixed that issue. So that's the only thing I had, but it does seem like they are working on that, which I think is fantastic, and to its credit.
They have multiple updates they've done, and there's a log that kind of tells you.
And the fact that it's not a book that was printed and is in here means that they can add extra content.
Yes.
They can fix a typo. You point something out to them, they'll fix it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it looks like there's already going to be extra content coming. There's two characters that are referenced in the rule book here that aren't in there, so
the designer's already mentioned they're working on a.
And there's room in the box for it. There's room in the box, and you can still pick up the box. It's not like a 17-pound box.
Right.
It's nice.
Anything else you want to mention?
The last couple of things I'll just throw into my final thoughts.
Okay, let's get to it.
All right, I guess I'll go first.
You go first.
All right.
You're throwing things in.
Thanks
you
for
go first.
volunteering.
I'll throw it in and go first. How about that? So I did mention mechanically it's very light, and it is. But the couple of things I think are very smart is that kind of dice check system where you've got the different traits, and you can potentially change those around as the game goes on. Very smart. Takes a very simple system and still makes it feel like you've got some kind of agency going on there. I like that. I love how they work on timing. So basically, if you're on this particular day of the week, you'll get a card. It says, 5 days from now, put a little token. Super smart, super easy, and it works. So while it is light mechanically, I think that the decisions that were made are very smart. I love this game. I absolutely adore it. It kind of, Z was the one that saw it first, and I was like, oh man, I blew it. I didn't get it. I got it afterwards because I was so excited about
I
it.
backed it, like we said, Game Found.
Yeah.
And then either it came in or it was around the time when it was starting to deliver and you were excited about it, so you got one.
I got in on it too. I love Dawn of Peacemakers also. Anyway, It's a 9.5 for me. I think it's fantastic. It's outstanding. I've really it's so how easy it is to get onto the table.
Right.
I'm telling you, I'm going to pick this over most other games of its type because it is so easy to get out and get played and put it away if you want to just play a session or two. I can't emphasize that strongly enough.
Right.
How important it is for me to have a game like this where I can play a storytelling game and it not be a chore.
Right.
So 9.5.
I'm going to give it an 8.5. I really like it as well. I think the couple of small things that pull it down for me from something as high as a 9 or a 9.5, the world is a little harder to get into than if it was people.
Yeah.
You know, they keep talking about this stork and this mouse are hanging out, and you're like, I'm having a slightly harder time picturing that and the interaction and the just sort of living in the world because I don't really understand motivations unless I click and it says polecats are jerks. I'm like, okay, I got it. It's a little harder to get into, right?
Sure.
So, but maybe that's me. Maybe that's I'm not used to reading stories with animals as the anthropomorphic animals as the protagonists, and that's very much this. So that pulls it down a little bit. I should also mention, which we didn't talk about at all. You can play this cooperative or competitively.
That's true.
Oh, right, yeah.
And it's a very small change up at the top of the game. You tell the story which one you're doing, and that's it. You know, you either add up your scores or you compare them to each other. That's that. So that pulls it down a little bit for me. Like I said, overall, I do enjoy it very much. I think the system here is really robust. I can't wait for more content. Not to say that I'm even scratching the surface here, but I like the idea that it's going to be supported. And I actually think that this game enriches, for me at least, Dale of Merchants, which came out first, long time ago. I think now with all the story, all these characters, hopefully, I go back now to Dale of Merchants, which is just a deck building game, and I'm like, oh, I get a little more story, a little more history out of those
supportive
characters.
information, background, kind of investment in them.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but yes, it's an excellent game. Very much recommended.
Yeah. I'm coming in pretty high as well. I'm going to come in at a 9 on this game. And what pulls it back from the 9.5, because I was right there, 9.5. And what is pulling it back from me is the randomness. And I do like that you have the tags and you have that decision. But it just does not feel good when you fail like 3 times in a row.
And it will happen.
And it does happen. That does not feel good. But I will say, to the game's credit, and why that doesn't frustrate me long term and why it keeps the game so high is because it doesn't stop the game.
No.
It's not like, wow, and now I'm out, I've destroyed this character.
Right.
The story still advances. It's not, you might carry a scar, or you might be troubled for a couple rounds. Something like that. You get shocked. Oh, hate being shocked. Shock is the bane of that playthrough. But yeah, so I feel like, but those statuses are so smart. And the other thing that kind of just holds it back is sometimes you'll get items or statuses or something like that go into that timing system that you're talking about. And that is so cool. But it frustrates me if I get something and it like ends at the exact same time of the game and doesn't carry over. But if I use 4 out of the 5 times, wait, I get a whole new fresh 5 next time. It's like, but I wanted the other one instead, and so I just wish that was a little bit cleaner of like why things carry over versus not. But the way they do it is very simple, and there's credit to that, I think. It's very simple. You talked about what you would pull this ahead of. I would pull this ahead of a lot of campaign games, a lot of story-driven games, just because that accessibility. I can play this 5-6 times for one play of something else and feel like I got that experience every single time was that full experience. I was very apprehensive about this, so I did not back it because it's like, I don't need another campaign game. I don't need another story game. I don't need this one. Very much not only met but exceeded what it was trying to do. To me, backing this game was kind of like backing technology on Kickstarter. It was a huge gamble, I feel like, and so I didn't because that just terrifies me. But you guys, having done that, hit the jackpot on this because I think it definitely very well exceeded exactly what it was going for and the experience it's trying to provide.
There you go. That is 3 seals of excellence, everybody. And that's going to do it. So thank you very much for watching our review of Lands of Galzyr here. My name is Z Garcia.
I'm Mike Delisio.
And I'm Milla Cleghorn.
Enjoy hanging out with polecats.
Getting shocked.
Shocked.